a seeker of fame and glory, a hot-tempered military genius, and America's most notorious traitor.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the 20 worst backstabbers, turncoats, and renegades in human history. We'll only be considering those whose acts are proven, not in dispute.
Vidkun Quisling. His name means traitor.
Number 20, Robert Ford. You know you've earned your spot on a list like this when history literally calls you a coward. Robert Ford wasn't only a member of Jesse James' gang, he was one of the infamous bank robbers' friends.
I can't believe I woke up this morning wondering if my daddy would loan me his overcoat. And here it is just past midnight. I've already robbed a railroad train. I'm sitting in a rocking chair chatting with none other than Jesse James.
But when Missouri's governor offered a reward for Jesse's capture, Ford saw an opportunity. One morning in 1882, while Jesse was dusting a picture frame in his own home, Ford drew his pistol and shot him in the back of the head. He expected fame, glory, acclaim. Instead, he became one of the most infamous figures in the West. Even the press turned on him, branding him the coward. The moniker stuck until Ford, too, was eventually bushwhacked and killed. Number 19, Jonathan Pollard. In the spy game, it's not just enemies you have to worry about. Sometimes your allies spy on you too. Jonathan Pollard was a U.S. Navy intelligence analyst with access to highly classified information.
Pollard was a civilian analyst for U.S. naval intelligence with access to some of this country's most important secrets.
In the mid-1980s, he passed enormous amounts of classified material to Israel, an American ally. When the scheme was uncovered, it sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. While some in Israel hailed him as a hero, American officials called him a traitor who compromised national security for a paycheck and ideology.
In Israel, the issue has remained alive. In 1995, the Israeli government even granted Texas-born Mr. Pollard citizenship while he remained in an American prison.
Israel confirmed a decade later that he was officially on their payroll. Pollard's actions severely strained U.S.-Israel relations, and he was sentenced to life in prison. In 2015, he was released and in 2020 relocated to Jerusalem. Number 18. George Plantagenet, 1st Duke of Clarence. When your brother's the King of England, loyalty may lose out to jealousy. At least that was the case for George Plantagenet.
And richest and most powerful of all was Edward's middle brother, George, Duke of Clarence. The man Shakespeare described as false, fleeting, perjured Clarence.
During the Wars of the Roses, he betrayed his brother King Edward IV by siding with a rebellion. When that effort started going south, old George flipped sides again. Edward forgave him, but just once. George kept scheming though, spreading rumors about the Queen and plotting behind the throne. Eventually, even his royal blood couldn't save him. Charged with treason, George was executed in the bougiest way imaginable. He was allegedly drowned in a barrel of wine.
Wait, please. Please let me see my brother the king. No!
Whether fact or fiction, it's a fitting end for a man who drank deeply from the cup of betrayal. Number 17, Adolf Tolkachev. In the shadowy world of Cold War espionage, few spies allegedly did more damage to their own side than Adolf Tolkachev. A Soviet radar engineer, Tolkachev secretly passed loads of military intel to the CIA between 1979 and 1985.
Adolf?
Yes.
This is Nikolai. Go towards the rear of the building, pass a metro on your right, and follow the main road.
Tolkachev was a key source of U.S. intel on Soviet aircraft and missile systems. His intelligence was so vital, he was later dubbed the billion-dollar spy. To the USSR, he was a traitor of the highest order. Eventually betrayed by a double agent, Tolkachev was arrested, executed, and erased from official memory. Some called him a hero of freedom.
He was an incredibly productive spy who helped the United States understand things about Soviet military technology, particularly radars, that had never, ever come through in espionage before.
Others, a man who sold out his country. Today, his legacy sits in a gray zone between sabotage, sacrifice, and Cold War myth-making. Number 16, Pedro Paterno. Pedro Paterno made a career out of playing every side at once, making sure to profit at every opportunity. He first gained notoriety by brokering the Pact of Biak-Nubato in 1897. There, he helped end the first phase of the Philippine Revolution by convincing Filipino rebels to accept exile and payoffs from the Spanish. Later, under Aguinaldo's government, he served as prime minister. But when war broke out between the Philippines and the United States, Paterno switched gears again. He advocated for peace and pushed for the country to become a U.S. protectorate. After the fighting stopped, he joined the colonial government. To many, Paterno was the embodiment of an opportunist. In Filipino political slang, Paterno was the original bulimbing, or turncoat. Number 15, Kim Philby. Kim Philby wasn't just any spy, he was the spy. A high-ranking officer in British intelligence, Philby was also a communist.
Western agents were betrayed by KGB spies, like the British intelligence officer Kim Philby.
As a member of the notorious Cambridge Five, Philby was an agent of the Soviet Union. He fed Moscow critical information for decades. Philby betrayed colleagues, missions, and entire networks without a second thought. His intel reportedly led to the deaths of dozens of Western agents. Charismatic, charming, and utterly duplicitous, Philby rose to the top of MI6 while quietly dismantling it from within. Even after fellow members of the Cambridge Ring were exposed, Philby managed to avoid suspicion.
In terms of our own individual experiences, we know, or we knew, that the operations we were involved in had been betrayed by people like Kim Philby.
With the walls closing in, he finally defected to the USSR in 1963. He spent the rest of his life in Moscow unrepentant. Number 14, Ana Montes. Ana Montes was that quiet, reliable coworker you could always trust to help. She was also Cuba's top spy in Washington for the better part of 2 decades.
I believe she does have blood on her hands.
A very deadly woman, a very dangerous woman.
She was truly a professional spy. She was serious about the business.
Recruited in the 1980s, Montes rose through the ranks of the Defense Intelligence Agency. There, she became one of the government's top analysts on Cuba. What her colleagues didn't know is that she was quietly feeding Havana a steady stream of classified secrets. Montes was no mercenary, though. She believed with her whole heart that U.S. policy toward Cuba was unjust. She acted accordingly.
She was working with the Cuban government who murdered American citizens in cold blood. So she didn't pull the trigger, but she was complicit after the fact.
When she was finally arrested in 2001, officials were stunned by the scale of the breach. Her work earned her the title, the most dangerous spy you've never heard of. Number 13, Robert Hanssen. It doesn't really get much worse than having a spy hunter being a spy himself. Robert Hanssen was a senior FBI agent tasked with rooting out spies. America's problem was that he was one.
Perhaps the most dangerous spy in U.S. history. His actions pitted the CIA against the FBI and triggered a mole hunt that brought the American intelligence services to their knees.
For over 20 years, Hanssen fed classified intel to the Soviet Union. Even after the Soviet Union fell, Hanssen kept up the gig, working for Russia. He compromised operations and exposed U.S. assets, directly leading to the deaths of American operatives and their allies. He worked undetected from within the FBI's own counterintelligence unit, all while living a quiet suburban life.
Trusted insider in the FBI who worked on counterintelligence, sophisticated spy detection, worked next to the best in America at spy detection, and went undiscovered for more than 20 years as the most damaging spy in FBI history.
When he was finally arrested in 2001, the FBI called it the worst breach in its history. Number 12, Qin Hui. In over 1,000 years of Chinese history, few names draw more contempt than Qin Hui. A powerful official during the Southern Song dynasty, Qin is the most infamous for orchestrating the execution of Yue Fei. Yue was a beloved general and a national hero who led resistance efforts against the invading Jin dynasty. While Yue fought to defend the nation, Qin pushed for capitulation. He saw the loyal general as his chief obstacle. Through fabricated charges and political maneuvering, he had Yue imprisoned and ultimately executed. The betrayal outraged the public back then, and it still resonates today. Statues of Qin and his wife kneeling in shame still stand outside Yue Fei's tomb, where generations of visitors have spat on them in disgust. Number 11, Stella Goldschlag. One of the sadder parts of the Holocaust is that some people did anything to survive. Stella Goldschlag was the most horrifying example. A German Jew with striking looks, she didn't hide or flee. She became an agent for the Gestapo. After being arrested and tortured, she agreed to work as a catcher, helping hunt down fellow Jews in hiding. It's estimated she informed on hundreds, many of whom were later deported to concentration camps. Some argue she was coerced, others point to the zeal with which she carried out her task, even after her own parents were deported. Her story is a chilling reminder of how fear, survival, and cruelty can become inseparable in history's darkest hours. Number 10, Wang Jingwei. Today he's viewed by some as the most destructive traitor in China's history. Originally a politician and a member of the leftist Kuomintang party, he began to repeal his support after he failed to secure leadership of the party after the death of Sun Yat-sen. When a bloody war between China and Japan finally erupted in 1937, Wang backed Japan's plan for an armistice and quickly switched sides to ally with the Japanese. He went on to become the puppet leader of the government that Japan set up in Nanjing, eastern China. Number 9, Philippe Petain. Philippe Petain was once hailed as the savior of France. During World War I, he led French forces to a hard-won victory at Verdun, becoming a national hero. But decades later, his legacy collapsed in spectacular fashion.
France placed its trust in Petain. Most French citizens, reeling from their defeat, believed the armistice was a wise or at least a necessary choice. But what Petain did next was neither wise nor necessary.
When Nazi Germany conquered France in World War II, Petain, famous for fighting the Germans a generation earlier, collaborated. Installed as head of the Vichy regime, he worked with the occupiers. He enforced Nazi policies and aided in the deportation of Jews. To many, his was the ultimate betrayal, a revered general siding with the enemy against his own people. After the war, he was convicted of treason and sentenced to death. Charles de Gaulle commuted the sentence to life imprisonment, where Petain died in disgrace.
Imprisoned on an island off the coast of France, Petain died unrepentant in 1951 at the age of 95.
Number 8. Pierre Laval. If Petain was the figurehead of Vichy France, Pierre Laval was the engine that made it run.
No man epitomized French collaboration more than Pierre Laval. His activities during the Second World War still divide the French today.
Once a prominent French politician, Laval embraced Nazi collaboration and servility with chilling enthusiasm. As prime minister under the Vichy regime, he didn't just go along with German demands. He went above and beyond. Laval actively organized the deportation of French Jews to Nazi death camps and publicly declared his desire for a German victory. He thought the Nazis would win and wanted to be on the winning team. He bet wrong. After the war, he was arrested, tried for treason, and executed by firing squad.
The key piece of evidence against him was the newspaper article from the 22nd of June 1942, where Laval had called for a German victory. He was sentenced to death.
His name is reviled by history, remembered as a man who didn't just serve the occupiers, but eagerly tightened their noose. Number 7. Vidkun Quisling. A Norwegian politician who rose from being a successful military man to becoming the Minister of Defense. Quisling's power had all but faded by the time the Nazis invaded Norway in 1940.
As Hitler's Norwegian inside man, Vidkun Quisling betrayed his country and paved the way for Nazi invasion and occupation.
As a strong admirer of Adolf Hitler and fascism, he met with the German dictator to betray information about Norwegian military strategy. Then, as the occupation of Norway took place, Quisling overthrew the government with Nazi backing and established himself as the minister-president. In 1945, the Nazi supporter was charged with embezzlement, murder, and high treason and subsequently executed.
Right until the moment of death, Vidkun Quisling remained convinced he had done nothing wrong.
Number 6. Guy Fawkes. Born in York and raised an Anglican, Fawkes converted to Catholicism relatively early in life and developed anti-Protestant sympathies.
Surrounded by Catholicism from his youngest days, it is not surprising that by the age of 20, Fawkes was an ardent and committed Catholic.
It wasn't long before he found a like-minded group of conspirators looking to assassinate King James I and restore Catholicism as the religion of the land. He became a key figure in the Gunpowder Plot of 1605, which sought to blow up English Parliament. Fawkes was charged with safeguarding the explosives which had been amassed in the cellar beneath the House of Lords. However, he was captured and tortured, eventually dying on January 31st the following year. Every November 5th, England celebrates Guy Fawkes Day with a bonfire and a burning in effigy of the notorious traitor.
The way, of course, we've continued to celebrate the defeat of the Gunpowder Plot with Bonfire Night and burning of Guy Fawkes.
Number 5. Benedict Arnold. During the American Revolutionary War, Arnold established himself as a soldier of intellect and courage, so much so that he was promoted to the rank of general for the Americans.
But before Arnold betrays his country, he is George Washington's favorite fighting general and a true American hero, which makes his betrayal of his commander-in-chief both painful and personal.
However, discontent with his status in the military and with the political decisions of the U.S., he began negotiating secretly with the British and decided that he would turn over the fort at West Point that was under his command to British troops.
Before them are captured documents that reveal the most notorious act of treason in American history. A plot to sell out West Point in upstate New York, America's most important fort, to the British. Stunningly, the plot was hatched by West Point's commander and the war's greatest hero, General Benedict Arnold.
The plot was discovered and foiled, and Arnold narrowly escaped arrest. Publicly switching loyalty, he continued to fight against the Americans during the rest of the war. Number 4. Mir Jafar. In Indian history, few figures are more reviled than Mir Jafar. As commander of the Bengal army, he was entrusted with defending the region against British expansion. But in 1757, at the Battle of Plassey, he struck a secret deal with the British East India Company. In exchange for power and a promise to be installed as Nawab, Jafar held his troops back at the decisive moment. His move handed the British a victory on a silver platter. Battle was a key piece in cementing nearly 2 centuries of British rule in India. Jafar got his throne, and his nation got centuries of colonization. His name became a curse, still used in South Asia to mean traitor. Number 3. Ephialtes of Trachis. The Battle of Thermopylae is one of history's most famous last stands. Ephialtes is the reason it ended in tragedy instead of victory.
Use your reason! Think of your men! I beg you!
Listen to your fellow Greek. He can attest to the Divine One's generosity.
A Greek from the region of Malice, Ephialtes knew the mountain paths around the Hot Gates well. When King Xerxes of Persia needed a way around the Spartan phalanx, Ephialtes gave him one. He led the Persians through a hidden pass. They flanked King Leonidas, overwhelming his forces. The last stand inspired the rest of Greece to unite and turn Xerxes back. But Ephialtes' betrayal was never forgotten.
You there, Ephialtes. May you live forever.
His name became so reviled in Greek culture, it eventually came to mean nightmare. Number 2, Marcus Junius Brutus the Younger. This senator in the ancient Roman Republic was one of only 3 people in Dante's epic poem Inferno considered so evil that he was to be chewed in the mouth of Satan in the center of hell forever. Brutus initially warred against the Roman general and consul Julius Caesar. However, he was pardoned and later appointed as praetor and governor of Gaul by the man who came to be his friend. Fearing Caesar's rise to power, he joined several other conspirators who shared his concerns. In one of the most famous betrayals in history, they stabbed the dictator to death in the Senate on the Ides of March in 44 BC.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Judas Iscariot. Dante considered him history's most notorious traitor, choosing to ensnare him in the jaws of Satan's central head in the Inferno. Iscariot was one of Jesus of Nazareth's 12 apostles, confidants with a special relationship to the charismatic religious figure. Despite the bond of trust that existed between Jesus and the apostles, Judas collaborated with those who considered Jesus dangerous. Judas delivered him into the hands of his enemies, identifying him with a kiss and leading to his subsequent execution by direct order of the Roman prefect Pontius Pilate. To this day, the name Judas is synonymous with the idea of a traitor in popular culture. And all, apparently, for 30 pieces of silver. Let us know who broke your heart the hardest in the comments below.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.